Thanks for tuning in to the Mission Matters podcast, where we feature successful, mission-driven leaders committed to creating a positive change in the world. Our mission with this channel is to inspire other leaders by providing industry insights, new ideas, and inspiring stories from the pros.
All right, hello, I'm Paul Fyth, host of this show where I talk with leaders heading up mission-focused organizations, leading from the heart, inspiring others, and making a difference in our communities. Episode is sponsored by none other than PGM, or Paul Gregory Media, which is a certified B Corporation. To know what that is or what Paul Gregory Media does, visit paulgregorymedia.com. Super excited to have Kelly Knox with us today. She is the Illinois Director of Special Spaces. So we're going to find out what that is. Welcome, Kelly.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. This is about where my fake announcer voice fades.
All right. That's
I
good.
just want to dive right in.
Let's get real. Let's get gritty.
Let's find out who you are. I usually do a little introduction. People are used to that, but I don't have much information on you. So I'm just going to toss it to you and tell us about your journey and what led you to Special Spaces.
Yeah. So I am one of those really, really lucky people who had that moment in their lives where their passion and their purpose for being on the earth came together in one moment. And you can see I still get choked up by this because I think that's why we're here, right? I think all of us are here to figure out why we're on this earth. And some of us never find it out. Some of us find it out when we're a child. And I was lucky enough to really have that moment. And what led to that moment was, 30 some years of life. And, tosses and turns and ups and downs. And I did lots of different things, went to college and thought I was going to be an interior designer and didn't do the research and found out that the college I went to didn't have interior design. And then broke my leg pretty severely my freshman year. And I was in a wheelchair. And the only building on campus that I could get to was through a service elevator in my dorm to the theater building. And so I had to drop all of my classes because it was actually the first week of my freshman year. And I dropped all my classes and took theater classes instead. And that was really life-changing for me because I never thought I would go into theater. Never done any acting, none of that. And still really haven't done any acting, but I got to do all of my creative stuff along with really learning about myself, which is what acting classes are all about. And that probably changed my life there more than I even like to attribute it to that. But I stayed on campus, took theater classes, ended up getting a theater and communications degree, and then had no idea what I was going to do. And I'm so glad that I'm not born in a time like now where you have to know, all these kids have to do internships, their sophomore year, their junior year, their senior year. And I didn't know any of that. I had no idea what I was going to do. I worked for the Gap as a manager. I worked for my father's
This is after your undergrad degree?
My undergrad degree is in communications and theater.
But you graduated and then you were trying to figure out what to do at that point.
Yeah, I had no idea. And I was the fourth child and my parents were just kind of like, okay, you go do what you're supposed to do. And I didn't know anything else except for retail. I did retail. Then I worked for my dad and I worked with my siblings and we ran a marketing and publishing firm. Very blessed to have done that. We sold, and I've always been into interior design. And I just started decorating for friends. And then I started sewing. My sewing teacher in high school had given me her Bernina, which is a great sewing machine. And I started sewing again. I started doing draperies. And this is what led me to Special Spaces. I was doing draperies actually out of my basement workroom and designing for clients. And I subscribed to a drapery magazine, and the drapery magazine had an article about Special Spaces. And my father had just passed, and he was my biggest hero. And I was like, I need to do something more with my life. And I read this article about special spaces, and I was like, oh my gosh, how perfect. I can do the design and the draperies for special spaces and still keep my drapery and design workroom. And I called the national director, which was the same woman who started Special Spaces 10, I guess it was 10 years before I joined, and said, hey, I want to do your design and draperies for your Illinois chapter. And she was like, we don't have one. Would you like to start one? And that moment was everything stopped. Everything, all the things that I'd been through in my life and all the things that I wanted to be as a person came together in that one beautiful moment. I will remember that 15 seconds for the rest of my life. And I feel so incredibly blessed to have found that. And that's how Special Spaces Illinois started.
Wow. 15 seconds.
Probably 15 seconds. I remember exactly where I was. I remember what I was wearing. I feel like the whole world stopped. Everything else stopped except for my yes.
Wow.
That's what I've done since. I've just continued to say yes to Special Spaces, to everything it's brought along with it, and been very blessed to have that as my compass.
Wow. Well, let's talk about Special Spaces and what is it exactly?
Yeah. So Special Spaces was started 20 years ago now by one woman, the same woman who pushed me to be in here, Jennifer Swain. And she heard about a little boy with cancer, and he wanted a dream bedroom makeover, and he wanted to go to Disney for his wish. And she thought, well, I can do that. I can create his dream bedroom and he can still go to Disney. And from that one woman saying that, Special Spaces was born. And so is our mission, creating dream bedrooms for children with cancer.
Creating dream bedrooms for children with cancer.
Yes.
I love how that you put the word children before cancer.
Yeah. And actually, Paul, that's what you just said is really important, because that's exactly what we want to remind the child, is that they're still a child, and remind everybody they're still a child. They deserve joy and peace and being carefree in their own home. And that's what we're doing.
Yeah. And I think that's the video that got me excited. Not the one that you had recently at a gala, but I think it was on the website. And I think Mike was passing it like a good board member. He was passing it around.
Love Mike. Mike and Don.
So the videos are very, very well done. Of course, you can't help but feel sort of emotional when a reveal is being done.
Yeah. The reveal is kind of like the touchdown of the whole day, right? Because the unique thing about Special Spaces is we do our dream bedroom makeovers in one day. Doesn't mean that there's not tons of planning on the back end, but we arrive at the family's home in the morning to create the design that the child and the designer have come up with over the past couple of months. And we arrive with everything we need that day. We arrive with the volunteers from the sponsoring company. We arrive with every tool that we need, every screw that we need, every piece of furniture, every crafting item we need. And we spend the next 8 hours with the sponsoring company creating that dream bedroom makeover. And then we celebrate at the end of the day with the entire family, the entire company that sponsored the makeovers or organization, and Special Spaces. And it is such an amazing moment.
Wow. And in that 8 hours, are you doing just the one bedroom or are you doing multiple?
Yeah, great question. So we realized about 5 years ago, so we started Illinois 11 years ago. And we realized that probably 2 or 3 years in, that there was something missing. We'd walk into a home, we'd create these dream bedrooms for the child with cancer, but it's not just the child that is affected by a cancer diagnosis. It is the entire family. So we decided that we were going to do dream bedroom refreshes, is what we call them, for all the children in the home. So it's not just the child with cancer. It is every child in that home, which means that the whole entire family can celebrate Makeover Day, which has really changed what we're doing, because it's not about the child, it's about the entire family. And it really, it's not the only nonprofit that does something for the siblings. And every nonprofit doing something for a child with cancer is doing phenomenal work. I have so much respect for so many of the other organizations that we work alongside, but we really do change the family's life in that one day.
Wow. I mean, I'm such a fan of those extreme makeover shows, and even like Restaurant Impossible or Bar Rescue, and they do everything in one day at the end of it all. So it's amazing that actually happens. And I know they're real on TV, but that's like, they've got producers and hundreds and hundreds of people, but I'm guessing you have quite a bit of people in that 8-hour span, because you have to handle, I guess, painting and furniture, like you said. You're probably putting in new lighting or lamps or something.
Yeah. We do it all in that day. Yes. So when we arrive at 8:30 in the morning and we talk to the sponsoring company, which we asked the sponsoring company to bring between 8 and 12 of their employees or their partners. Some people like to bring partners with them, so it's like a collaborative day. We asked them to bring 8 to 12 of their employees or volunteers, and we kind of lay out the day for them, what it looks like, and say we have a mood board and a vision board and a list of all the things that we're going to get done that day. And we ask them what they would like to be a part of, but we ask them really, like, put your type A personality in your back pocket, because it is extreme chaos. And yes, those extreme home makeover shows have producers that make it look probably a little bit more heightened, but it is not fake. It is so real. That last hour and a half, the whole day is organized chaos. But that last hour and a half really is, you're stepping over people. You're like, excuse me. But it's not like, excuse me. It's like, oh, I'm so excited. Like, the child's coming home. We can't wait. We got to get this perfect. We got to get this right for them. So yeah, it's not like nothing you can describe.
Wow. What is the last thing to get done in a bedroom before
pictures?
It's revealed?
But
Okay.
yeah, pictures and fluff, the fluffy stuff. So, at 4:00, we're hoping all of the big stuff is done. Everything's hung on the walls. The window treatments are up, the bed's made. So then it's all the other fluffy stuff. So it's moving around all of the pillows and the accessories and the clocks, and making sure that there's no cords. I'm a big cord person. I hate seeing cords in pictures. Making sure that it's ready. And then the last thing we do before we shut that door is we take pictures of that room. And then we have 2 people in that room kind of waiting for the child's response. They knock on the door, and then they get to see their room for the first time.
Cool. And I'm guessing, you have somebody there to capture that moment.
Yeah, we have some volunteers that help us out along the way. And one of the other things about special spaces that's kind of unique and a little bit of a challenge is we have, in the course of 2025, we will have about 14,000 volunteer hours that go into our mission. And we only have 1 full-time employee and 2 part-time employees that do our entire mission. And we will do 75 room makeovers this year. So we have 27 volunteer teams that are the design portion, the planning portion, and then we have all the volunteers that come from the company. So managing that number of volunteers it's a little bit more difficult than what we call like sending a wish to somebody. Right. That is like almost like, here, we can send this to you. You tell us what you want, we can send it to you. This involves so much contact with the family, and they're out of the house for the day. It's a very intimate relationship.
There's a lot of moving parts to this that I'm finding out now. So you said you're going to do how many? 75?
We'll do 75 room makeovers this year, which is more than a third of the entire country. We'll be right here in Chicago.
Wow. Can I ask you, first of all, I'm just trying to wrap my head around the volunteer management piece of that, because there's got to be overlap. If you're doing 75, you got so many volunteers working on house number one.
Mhm.
And before they even start doing the makeover, you got other volunteers starting to plan and deal with house number two, and then on
Oh,
and on and on.
absolutely. Yeah,
So is there
we've
software or
got
something
6 makeovers happening at least at one time.
at any given time? And then
Yeah,
all the
because it's every
volunteers are
month
doing
we're
that.
doing 6 makeovers. It takes us about 6 to 8 weeks to plan a makeover. So what happens is what we call our dream bedroom coordinator, who are our core volunteer teams. These dream bedroom coordinators meet with the family, meet with the child, either via Zoom if that's more comfortable for the family, or in person. And they ask them everything. You know, pink means something to one child, but it means something else to another child. So it's really diving in deep with that child and giving them back their voice, which is part of what happens during cancer. They think every adult coming to their home, coming that they're meeting at the hospital, is going to take their blood or pick them or something. It's building trust of other humans back for these kiddos, asking them, what do you want? What do you want in your room? What do you do in your room? What do you love about your room? When you say a spaceship room, what does that mean to you? When you say a Star Wars room, what part of Star Wars do you love? And so that dream bedroom coordinator, who is typically an interior designer or somebody who's been working in that field, they then go back and they do all the purchasing, all of the planning, and all of that for about 2 months, 6 to 8 weeks. So yeah, they are overlapping projects because we have 27 teams that are doing this. We have some designers who are doing 10 room makeovers a year, 12 makeovers a year, and we have some who do 2. We ask our designers to do about 2 a year so that they can stay up on the processes.
Right. Well, thanks for indulging me in that logistics question, because I always find that kind of interesting. And the techie part of me is just also wondering, whoever's doing all of that volunteer management and coordination, is there software involved for that?
No.
No.
Nope. Because remember that she's not just coordinating with the family in the dream bedroom coordinator,
Right.
she's coordinating with the partner. So our sponsors, we call partners. Our partners are sponsors. They're there for makeover day. So it's her job, her coordination is reaching out to all 3 parties. And we've tried software before, but it's not the software that's the problem. It's the, yeah, we can do that day. We can do Thursday. We can do that Thursday in November. And then 2 weeks later, like, oh no, we can't. Our whoever can't be there, and we really want them there. So it's really just humans sitting down with a calendar and saying, yes, this date works. The coordination of this is really hard. So we hired a part-time person, and she's phenomenal. Her name is Erin O'Boyle. And she was a dream bedroom coordinator. She kind of just came up through the ranks, and she does a phenomenal job of doing this. And then she works with the hospital to get the child. She works with the family to tell them all about special spaces and what we do, and then get their application approved. And then she assigns that child to a dream bedroom coordinator, and picks a date for them. So yeah, her job's hard.
Wow. Okay. No software needed. It is a very human interaction and experience, which is just mind-boggling to think of all that coordination happening. But I want to take it then to, is there a typical, and I'm not even sure how you measure this. We all just went over the benefits. What's like the average cost to do a room makeover? Like, do you quantify it that way, or do you have other key performance indicators that you look at?
Yeah. So a cost to a company, so somebody who's wanting to partner with Special Spaces, is $10,000 to be a partner with Special Spaces. And partnerships include our events, because we want our partners to be a part of our events, be a part of our experiences. So a typical sponsorship starts at $10,000. We have them going up to $50,000, and those include more rooms and more perks.
Okay.
And but a cost of a room makeover is actually more than that, which sounds counterintuitive. But we have found our sweet spot is really that $10,000 partnership level. The cost of a makeover is more than that. Last year, it was about $11,000 a room. So that's
Okay.
all of our costs going into that room, which is why we have events. It's important to us to have successful events so that we can make sure that we cover all of those costs and can continue to grow. Um,
Yeah.
and
So
I
it's subsidized by those events, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, a number that's super important to our donors is we have 83% of every dollar going directly back to our mission, you've worked with nonprofits. That's a pretty darn high number that goes back to our mission.
It's very high.
And
Yeah.
yeah, we're audited every year, and it's really important to us that we stay there, which means that we rely a lot on our volunteers. We rely on our board. We have a very strong board here in Chicago. And we rely on our board. We rely on our volunteers to help us create this mission. And our volunteers are phenomenal.
It's important. And I know donors like to hear that. But have you heard of I'm going to plug something real quick. Have you heard of the movie Uncharitable?
Is that the one where they talk about you really have to spend to make?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that
I haven't watched it.
even if 50 cents of a dollar went to the mission and 50 cents went to administration, HR, operations, their argument, or one of their arguments, is that, well, you need that in order to make the mission happen. So why are people shying away from that? So they want to re-educate people. So I love that 83 cents out of every dollar goes right to the mission. But I could also make an argument that if we not retrain, but if we educate donors and say, maybe there would be no mission if we didn't have another part-timer or another full-timer, so that we could do twice as many homes.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. We've been lucky to grow organically. We have like a little triangle, for just to dumb it down a little bit, to make it simple to understand. We're driven by three different things. We're driven by our donors or our partners. We're driven by our kiddos, or we're driven by our volunteers. So one of them is always driving. So if we have too many volunteers, we're like, all right, then we got to get more donors so that we can do more rooms. If we have too many rooms, we're like, okay, we got to get more donors so that we can make sure that we have enough volunteers. So we've kind of grown organically that way over the last 11 years, but I think we're on the cusp of some really exciting things happening. We're 11 years in Chicago, and I think we're finally at a place where our feet are planted firmly. Our board's good. We've got some really neat partnerships. We're with the Sox, we're with the Bears right now. And those things to me are almost like iconic. I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I dreamt of when I started Special Spaces. And now it's finally happening. So I'm very, very excited about the future, because I'm very committed to say yes to every child with cancer. I am very driven by saying yes. I feel it. And Paul, this is too much, and this is probably one of the parts that you'll cut out. But when I started Special Spaces, I had no idea what it was like to be a parent of a sick child. None. Mm-hmm. And I watched these women, and I was like, women meaning the mothers. It really was the mothers. But I'll say parents. I'd watch these parents fight for their kids and fight for their kids' happiness. And I was like, wow, they are just so strong. And I became friends with a lot of these women, and I just felt so incredibly blessed, because it made me a better parent. And then I had a sick kid for years. And not cancer, but he had an autoimmune disease that was attacking all his organs. And we didn't know what was going on. Years. It started when he was in 8th grade, and he ended up having open heart surgery at Mayo when he was 15. And spent 6 weeks at Mayo trying to figure it out. I just couldn't figure it out. And if I didn't have that basis of those other moms, those other families fighting for their kiddos, I don't know if I would get it as much. But my son spent years in his bedroom, years. And it's important. I've seen the power of this mission in other families, but I've seen how important it is in my own. And it really does make a difference because they are in their homes. They're stuck. They're stuck in their rooms. So to be able to provide them with a place that they can heal and to find joy and like reset, it's a beautiful gift I've been given.
Indeed. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Kelly, you've been at this now for 11 years. How many rooms?
Yeah,
How many
400.
400.
Yeah, 400 children's rooms, but to our best calculation, we've actually done over 1,000 bedrooms for children with cancer and their families. And I'm sorry.
No, it's quite all right.
Yeah, I told you this mission really, really, really it resonates with me.
Well, in the beginning, I said something about leading from the heart, inspiring others, and making an impact in our communities, a difference in our communities. You certainly have done that. Special Spaces in Illinois has certainly done that and made an impact. And I'm really happy to learn more about this organization with you today. I just have one other question before we go.
And I'm going to share one other thing. So you go, you ask the question, and I'm going to share one other thing.
You want to share your one other thing first, or?
Sure.
Okay.
It's stuck to my desk. Whew. This is how old this is. I'm going to pull it up because I think it's important. So after my first gala 6 years ago, the next day, I was like, wow, I think I really found like my trajectory. Like this is what I was meant to do. More so even than when I had that moment. And I'd always wanted to write a mission statement for myself. And I sat down, kind of researched how you're supposed to write a mission statement, what's important, what key elements go into it. And it was like, okay, write how you're going to do it, write why you're going to do it, and write what you're going to do. And so I wrote this. You can see it's really old.
Yeah.
And it says, my purpose is to use my empathy, creativity, and connectability to inspire others to give back to the world in a joyful, free, and powerful way. And I am so blessed that I get to live this.
Wow. That is a great personal mission statement.
Thank you.
I know somebody, Shefali Trivedi, we had a podcast with her a while ago, and we were talking about personal mission statements or personal beliefs and writing those down, almost like a personal brand. But something to live by. So it sounds like you're very fulfilled.
Very lucky.
By that, and you were able to articulate that into words.
Yeah, very lucky.
Love that. Well, my burning question was just, with all these kids in Illinois, through what channels do they go through to find you and to make that wish or that request?
Yeah, the traditional way that a child is referred to us is through the hospitals. So we have partnerships at 10 hospitals, some local, some not, because we serve all of Illinois with 2 different programs. So some of them are, in Peoria, but we have 10 local partnerships, and we partner with either their child life specialist or social worker who refers kids to us, usually through our Fill Your Cup program, which is a Yeti that every child with cancer gets when they arrive or during chemo, et cetera. and they can self-refer through the hospital that way, or the child life specialist just fills out a form and says, hey, here's my medical form for this child. We'd love for you to connect with the child. That's the traditional way. But as we're growing, we're actually seeing it's more word of mouth. So it's, oh my gosh, my child, I came to your event. I have somebody from my church who has a child with cancer. Can I refer them? Absolutely. I don't, any single way, whether it's through the school, the church, the neighborhood, a family member. We're just finding that so many people are referring those kiddos to us organically. And then we go back to the hospital and get the information that we need from the hospital. But it's just been such a cool thing to watch and see, oh my gosh, we are growing organically. And this is so cool.
It's nice to have the name precede you, right?
Yeah.
So people know where to go. Well, this has been certainly one of my favorite podcast interviews. So thank you for joining. Thank you for joining me. And any parting thoughts for our listeners out there? I feel like we should have ended with the mission statement, but I didn't even do so good with that.
I guess that's probably it. My life has not been. Yeah.
Awesome.
Everything happens for a reason. Let's just say that. Everything happens for a reason. The good, the bad. It all happens for a reason if you listen. And if you can find the time to maybe sit down and really articulate what you want and have your compass, your mission statement, then everything kind of makes sense. And you can jockey every day. Does that fit? Like, is that making sense? Is that why am I doing that for the right reasons? Am I doing it for the wrong reasons? I feel like that really helped me fine tune who I want to be and what I want to do with my life. And, I'm lucky.
Wow. Well, I hope we all learn from that, because we could all use a little more fulfillment in our lives and a little bit more alignment with what we want. Yeah. So with that, thank you so much.
Thanks,
really
Paul.
appreciate you joining us. Until next time, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Mission Matters podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.